likely that I'm going to cry.
I expect crying to happen.
We'll shoot for the right amount of crying.
If I were to die tomorrow, I'm grateful for today. Sunrises are really important to me because they mean that I've made it to another day.
My boy was not as articulate about his feelings as you are. You found in me a father figure. I find in you a son figure.
Hey there, I'm B. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm from the East Coast of the US. In March of last year, I was diagnosed with a soft tissue sarcoma, specifically undifferentiated pleomorphic sarcoma. There's lots of conflicting statistics about it because there's no research into any of it. But since then, a lot of my life has changed. I'm 21 and it started in April. I started inpatient and I did that until early August of last year. So it actually started in November of the year before, where I'm the kind of person who goes, this isn't that bad, I'm fine. I'm really good at ignoring my physical needs, which is very unhealthy for many reasons that I've come to learn. Before being diagnosed, I worked on my feet a lot, so I didn't really question being tired and wanting to live on our recliner because that's just kind of how things were when I got home. There came some point in November where I was like, my knees are really bothering me. I really need to take a break. And I was like, the holiday season is perfect. I'd had straight 2 weeks off in December because I'd already had knee issues in the past because I did weightlifting in high school and I ran track and field and I did long jump. All the things that your knees don't want as a growing boy. I pushed through that, and then January came and I was still having problems with it. And so my boyfriend looked at me and he was like, you've got to go do something about it, because he acknowledges my physical pain for me. And I went, no, I'll be okay. I'll just give it a little bit longer and see if it actually works itself out. Smart decisions were made. Not my brightest moment. But then in early February, I had to call out of work because my knee hurt. I actually went to a doctor and I was like, I can't stand for more than 30 minutes without it being painful. I started out thinking that it was just some kind of stress fracture or something because I literally work for 10 hours standing and I get a 15-minute break in the middle to sit is what my job was. About a week or two later, I went back and I was like, nothing has improved. Finally did an MRI. They looked at it and they were like, this is suspicious. They thought that it might be like a fluid buildup or something, but it goes from there and you get sat down and I think we think it might be cancerous, and you just kind of, I distinctly remember laughing at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I also say that it's likely that I'm going to cry also.
Yeah. I expect crying to happen, and I'm gonna try not to too much, but I know that's also not healthy. I just want to be able to.
We'll shoot for the right amount of crying.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a right amount of crying. But after that, it was the part where it gets less clinical and more like legitimately sad, if I'm honest. When I told my parents, I had already been living away from home for a few months at that point. I told my parents and my siblings, and at first they were like supportive in the way that you would expect, but then once I got put into inpatient care, I stopped hearing from them. Pretty much completely. I think I've had a total of 4 or 5 texts from the 5 other members of my family. I'm pissed at them. Even if they tried, and one of my sisters did try, I went through one of the hardest years of my life and they ghosted me. When my first inpatient stay, my boyfriend was living at a state, and the first 2.5 months, I didn't get a visitor. My first roommate, who, for the sake of being in the public, I've called him W before. He was amazing. He was awesome. He played the guitar and he would sing in the middle of the night. And you would think that people would complain about that, but I don't think anyone actually did, because it was a nice break we had in May of last year. We both were having a really good day, and we were both up and moving, and we tidied up our room together. We just like straightened out our sheets and like made sure our toothbrushes were in their cups, and like sprayed some Lysol on like the counter, and like that was it. That was all we really did. But we hung origami birds from the ceiling, like colorful birds, and that was one of my favorite days. If I'm honest, it sounds super to anyone else cleaning all day and then putting up some paper, but a few days after that, he was admitted into the ICU in the middle of the night, and he didn't survive the weekend, unfortunately. And that one was hard. He had been there for a while, and he didn't talk in a way that he was worried that anything was going to go anyway but perfectly. He already had a ring for his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nothing to be sorry for.
Yeah, that was hard. He was the kind of person who would go out of his way to make sure everybody else was top tier. His phrase would be, when he came back to the room from going to meetings or treatment or whatever it was, he would say, "Welcome back to paradise, strong man." And he would just be lounging in his skeleton pajama pants on his bed with his guitar strung out. Like, he was an amazing person. I was given leave to get to attend his funeral, where that was hard. A few days later, I got sat down by one of the head nurses who knew that we had been close, and she was like, "We need his bed for someone else who needs help just as much." I remember being really mad at this kid. He was just as nice, just as good of a person, honestly. I was kind of to him the first week, if I'm honest, and I was lucky enough to have the chance to apologize to him for it. I wasn't mean, but I wasn't nice either.
Yeah.
And it wasn't his fault. He was younger than me, and one of the things that I talked a lot about in therapy about was being the kind of person that W was to me, to him, and being a guiding force and positivity that made him feel like it didn't suck as bad as it really does. I did what I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not too long after that, we learned about Techno's passing. I remember it was a night that I couldn't sleep. I don't sleep as much as I used to. So I find a lot of self-reflection time happens when the sun is coming up. Sunrises are really important to me because they mean that I've made it to another day. And the sun was coming up when I learned that my first roommate passed, and the sun was coming up when I learned that Techno was gone. And I'm really sorry. I know that this has got to be hard for you, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk to me. Because
Of course.
I've been imagining what it would be like to sit down and talk to my parents about what's been happening and all the things that I would catch them up on. And I'm glad that I get to at least tell somebody's dad.
Yeah. I'm glad you get to tell me it also. I'm glad I get to hear.
At the end of July, I lost my second roommate, so he and I weren't as close, but it was hard in a different way because so much had already happened, and then it just felt like a brick had been laid on my chest. His 19th birthday was in the beginning of August. I was invited by his family to his birthday dinner. If I thought anything was hard, that was rough. I have a lot of issues with, serious trauma and survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's so hard to look at his family and to sit there like I got to walk out of the room and he didn't. I felt like I couldn't look them in the eye. Because how do you face someone knowing that I know it's not my fault logically, but it doesn't feel fair.
Yeah. But can I interrupt for just a moment?
Yeah.
So I am someone like your friend's parents, your roommate's parents, because my son didn't make it, and here I am talking to you. And I'm just happy that you're alive. I'm just happy to be here with you. I don't feel anything but love and compassion for you. I don't have any I'm just glad that we're here together right now. There's no I mean, if anything, my boy's death has made me feel like life is more precious. So that's just my perspective as a parent. I don't know if that helps you, but that was my experience. Please continue with your story.
Thank you. It does help, and
I'm glad.
I still have to apologize to you. I know that it's not my fault, but I feel like shit sometimes being here. I'm thankful that I am, but I feel it doesn't feel fair.
It's not fair.
was discharged in early August, and I had quite a few months of just being a person. My boyfriend got time to come down to visit. We spent Halloween together, and then we spent Thanksgiving together. I've looked where he was living at the time on the West Coast, almost West Coast, and we took the time and drove across the country together. He lives here now, and we have an apartment together. It's been more his apartment than mine. It's been amazing having him here, having someone. Then in last December, this was where we meet for the first time, unofficially. I had a very large surgery to, help as much as they could. It was a limb-sparing surgery where they just took a bunch of my muscle and then shuffled it around like a Rubik's Cube, or a Lego man. I don't know. So I'm still, thankfully, home from that and slowly but surely recovering. But this is something that I told Strawberry last night, but in my writing to prepare what kind of things I wanted to tell you, since I don't have a dad to tell it to, I'm gonna borrow you as a dad. And Strawberry is my stand-in mom.
Strawberry here, interjecting with a quick cancer lesson for this next part. Draw the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Draw a vertical line between 3 and 4. Everything to the left of the line, you try and cure with increasing degrees of invasiveness. To the right of the line, stage 4, well, you just try and manage.
After they went in there and, saw what was up and all that, they did more, testing afterward to make sure that everything worked out the way it was planned. And they said something about, they were like, we have to look into it more. And that's, major red flag for something got fucked up somewhere. But what happened is when I was diagnosed back in March, it was misdiagnosed as stage 3. And in January, I was told that they had found several tumors in my lungs, and that it was being restaged for I'm sorry. So the statistics are already wrong and off and a little fucked up because there's not a whole lot of research. And
Yeah. I know the statistics you're talking about.
yeah. I know that this is gonna be public, and I'm fine with that, but I wanted to be able to sit down and talk to you and tell you that, because it sucks, but I don't I don't know how much more of it I'm gonna get. And even if it, it's just the last hour or so, I'm perfectly okay with that. Because getting to actually meet you is a dream, if I'm honest. Because I dreamed of meeting Techno for so long. And you're an amazing man. You really are. And I'm so grateful to be here and to get to talk to you and tell you what the last year of my life has been like. And this is where I go off script a little, but if I were to die tomorrow, I'm grateful for today. Because you taught me how to grieve and taught me how to smile again after months of things sucking pretty bad. I don't think I can ever thank you enough for it. I'm sorry for dropping your phone like that.
No, this is. I mean, it's kind of a happy moment for me. I mean, of course, I'm crying, but being able to make this connection with you is very meaningful for me as well. I mean, neither one of us has said it right out loud, but a young man in his, well, okay, no, a better way to say it is that you found in me a father figure. I find in you a son figure. So these things go both ways. I'm very grateful to you as well. My boy was not as articulate about his feelings as you are. A lot of the stuff that you and I are exchanging now and have exchanged in past communications was done non-verbally between the two of us, between him and me. I'm so impressed with everything that you've told me about how you've responded to your journey. You're an amazing person, and I think I said this early on when we were talking on Reddit, that your ability to self-reflect is unusual and impressive, and I admire that.
Thank you.
Oh, tomorrow you're going to remember that one thing that you forgot to tell me.
Yeah.
So when we're off stream or something, let's figure out how you can tell me tomorrow that one thing you forgot. Or I'll remember tomorrow the one thing I forgot to say to you. So let's figure out how we can
All right.
keep that connection.
That would be awesome. It sucks, but it's awesome.
Yeah. And that's life, right? Some of it is great and some of it is like terrible.
Yeah. I'm gonna read some stuff that I wrote. It was honestly my first draft, and usually I do 5 or 6. But this one is, every draft is a little different. But so when I wrote it originally, I thought I was gonna have 10 minutes instead of how lucky I am to have gotten almost an hour, which is insane. I can't. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow in shock that this even happened. I'm in shock now, but I decided to write down my thoughts because 10 minutes isn't a lot of time to thank a man who helped you get through one of the hardest times of your life. Back in December of last year, I hit a low that I haven't experienced in years. After a year of having cancer, losing 3 people, and then spending the holiday season alone, it all came crashing down on one very terrible night. I was so full of pain and grief and sadness that I couldn't handle it anymore. And there was a dark pit inside of me that was growing and threatening to swallow me whole. I seriously considered taking my own life that night. I reached out to a friend about my struggles, and she helped me work through my feelings and suggested that I reach out to you in the subreddit. Because even if you didn't see my post, then maybe somebody else would and could bestow some kind of wisdom on me. I was lucky enough to have you reply. In doing so, you changed my perspective completely. Suddenly, my negative emotions weren't something to fight off, but a wave to ride out. They didn't feel as daunting anymore. The pain I was experiencing could be dulled by finding something that brought me even the smallest amount of joy. In the last few months of having you unofficially adopt me, I've learned how to smile again. I'm figuring out how to live, not just fight to survive. I'm hurting, and that's okay, but I'm more than the pain. There's more to this world than pain. I still have a long ways to go in my recovery, both physically and mentally. But I know that no matter how hard it gets, I've already gotten through the worst of it. and I need to thank you. I don't know how. You've done so much for me. You've brought me so much joy. You taught me how to grieve, how to smile, and how to take on life one day at a time. Things were bad. They were terrible. You came into my life and helped me heal. And I'm not there yet. And I may never be. But now I have a chance to live with my grief and pain. And I can't thank you enough for that. Thank you. 1,000 times over. Thank you, Mr. Technodad. I'm forever in debt to you. And I also want to say how grateful I am to call myself a fan of your son. Techno was an amazing man. Anyone could see that. He helped me just by being himself. Everything after that I've already said, but it's all in circles.
Yeah. Yes. Yes to everything. And of course you are as completely welcome as, you know, beyond what I can say. It was, I feel very humbled, I guess, to be thanked like that. I think you are amazing. I think you are amazing. And I think you're doing an amazing job with a challenge that is beyond what you should have to deal with. So, I salute you from my heart. And I thank you for your example.